All right, so welcome back into the live stream today. We're going to be jumping into Coinbase. How are things lining up with Coinbase? A lot in the news around Coinbase and how this may be affecting their future. We'll dive into some of the news, also some of the speculation around where this particular exchange could land maybe in the next 6 to 12 months. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. If you guys have not subscribed to our channel, this is your chance to really get in and hopefully become part of the community. We have this thing called the Diamond Circle. It's basically our own family of people that subscribe to our channel. We have a mailing list that you guys can join. We send out a few emails a week. We drop AMAs, all that kind of stuff in. So that's the easiest way to get involved quickly. And of course, it's free. So check out that. Make sure and like the video because that's going to help you on both notifying you of when live streams jump up like this one. We try to do these 3 o'clocks as kind of our prime time. There are times when we will adjust things out, when we do our live streams. So just to kind of give you guys a heads up. So today we're going to talk about what Coinbase is up to, and also what will the impacts be. We'll also break down some other aspects of whether or not they're in financial trouble. We'll take a look at their Q2 report. We'll take a look at some other aspects around in terms of their flow of users, website visits, all that kind of stuff. We'll really kind of give you guys a big view of where this might. Hopefully we'll answer the question, are they too big to fail? We'll also get into whether or not and would an asset freeze or a wallet freeze take place, and if it did, what kind of scenario would play out? And this isn't necessarily on Coinbase, just looking at Coinbase. You should ask that question of any exchange that you're involved in. Doesn't matter who it is. Think those things through, because in times like this, because we are still in very volatile times right now, both from a macroeconomic scenario, but also just in general from a financial standpoint, a lot of different things are going to be playing out into this. And then what would happen if something did go in the way of a withdrawal freeze, what that might look like, and is it worth the risk, all those kind of things. And then lastly, we'll talk about how Coinbase could fix all this and really be in the right position at the right time, which I think is going to be in this next run when we start to see a bull market going. Now, to get started here, I want to look at the overall flow of how the exchange volume has been ramping across some of these. And I'll compare these to other big exchanges so you guys can kind of get a picture of where this goes. But if you look at this one right here, the exchange volume right now, you can kind of see it back in May of 2021. That was really kind of at its height. Remember, that was when Bitcoin hit its first all-time high. And we had a chance to really see some pretty big FOMO in the crypto community. And of course, Coinbase really kind of flying along. And then of course, November was the next period of time in which we hit 1.4 trillion in volume. And then right now you've got it setting at 292 billion. So again, very, very big fall off if you look at just the track record. Now, granted, at the same time, the market also looks like that. So it's not just the Coinbase volume, it's the market volume in general, now under $1 trillion. So with all that being said, you have to take those things into consideration. Now, the other thing that we look at are certain kinds of trends. Google Trends is a good one. And if you look at just in terms of Google search volume over the last period of time, again, back here in May, boom, boom, we were seeing massive numbers last year of Coinbase. And of course, that was, again, when we started to see Coinbase go public, all the scenarios of what we know as Coinbase in terms of a future and what it might look like. But again, we saw back here in October, November, which was really kind of the metaverse holiday season, so to speak, and then a lot of downturn overall. Now, you would look at these and think, well, Paul, this is just the scenario of market conditions that are driving all of this down. There are some examples, though, of the trading volume on other platforms that we haven't necessarily seen this kind of fall off. So that being said, then I always look at it at some point. Sometimes you have to read the writing on the wall and say, well, if things are starting to turn down for any product or service, usually traffic is one of the key things that you have to look at. So Coinbase Exchange trading volume, again, this is just showing the past year, kind of a live chart right here into that now at 1.27 billion. The lowest it's hit since, actually it's the lowest right there at 1.4. Yeah, so that was even a year ago. on July 18th, they were at 1.4 billion on their trading volume. Obviously, the move up during the all-time high in November, and then really just a track downward. So again, I look at these kind of things and I do not discount these. These are real and these are serious scenarios that you have to understand how this could affect. And this is another factor that kind of rolls into your observation of how the market kind of forms, and that is, how does contagion work? And this has happened in many kind of ecosystems, including the banks. And I'll show you a chart of some of the biggest banks that have failed in the past couple of decades. So these are the kind of things that we have to be on the watch for. I wanted to look at the top cryptocurrency spot exchanges. This is by weekly visits. So I did just a quick sort here. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So Binance obviously clearly leading this way with almost 21 million weekly visits. And here you have eToro holding it almost at 10 million. FTX coming in at 4.7 million. Bybit coming in at almost 4 million. And then you've got Digifinx KuCoin, 2.8. And then there you go, Coinbase Exchange at 1.9. So way down on the list overall in terms of just weekly visits. Now, this is another indicator to me that starts to look at the future of how any kind of project goes is based on its average user volume. And that can come by frequency of visits. It can also come in a lot of different ways that apply into volume, but the key there obviously is you need more customers. You need more customers to create more liquidity. You need more customers to develop more, kind of that Metcalfe law effect, which is the whole aspect of how social and people get into these exchanges in the first place. Most of the time people join because, hey, their friend, their neighbor, their cousin, uncle, whatever it might be, got into that exchange and said, hey, check them out, I'm using them. So those kind of things are very important in how this plays out. The one thing that people are talking about is Coinbase rumors of going insolvent. This, of course, is growing. Obviously, we're not saying that. We have no facts or anything that are pointing that direction. What we're showing you here is news that is really kind of just pointing in the direction of where these issues could be. And there's a couple points that are in this aspect. And the one thing I want to kind of point out here is this domino effect. Now, and you've heard me talk about contagion and what that could have really evolved to. If you look at the overall market and the condition of the overall market right now, still in high fear. And if you look at some of the best investors on the planet, they're still anticipating some sort of market hit. And these guys have been around for quite a while. They understand these cycles that do occur. And they also understand how emerging markets also create certain events that can create opportunities, buying opportunities. It's happened in mobile, it's happened in social, and it happened in the birth of the internet. I don't think crypto is going to get a free pass here. I think we're going to see a major event occur. Now, many people will point to this and say, well, wait a minute, Paul. We've had major events. You know, you had the Mt. Gox event, you've got Celsius, you've got Voyager. These are massive. You've got Luna, obviously UST. These are massive, but are they really the cataclysmic events of their time? That's the question mark that you have to look at. I always question that in the essence of Bitcoin still hovering around the $20,000 mark. And a lot of, to a certain extent, I think a lot of people starting to trade in and out, meaning more activity. It won't be long before we start to see the funds start to activate again. Remember, they've been standing on the sideline a little bit in shock because of the amount of fall off we saw in the S&P and stocks over the past year. But I think we're going to start to see a little bit of movement back in. Question will be, can that be enough to really kind of solidify how a lot of these exchanges are flowing? This is a big one right here. 248 million in stable coins flow out of Coinbase as community refutes exchange liquidity issues. And you know, they're pretty much saying, hey, we don't have a problem, but anytime you have a coin outflow at 248 million of stable coins, I don't care who you are, that is a really significant number, especially in this market. Remember, we're talking about $250 million. So it's not as you can just look at these and just say, hey, That's the everyday operations of business. That's not going to be the case, won't fly. You look here at Finbold, kind of showing you the Coinbase exchange balance versus Binance. And again, right here, Binance, of course, absolutely skyrocketing and intersecting where Coinbase has seen a fall off, dramatic fall off right here, and Binance essentially coming in. This is a Glassnode chart talking about the overall exchange balances versus the Binance scenario. So you take that and then you listen in, as I said, to other people that kind of break in a lot of where this is going. There's some other charts I wanted to show you here that are kind of interesting on the outflow. Let me show you this one right here. So this is all stable coins, exchange reserves on Coinbase Pro. You can see this dropping right here. Here's all stable coins on exchange reserve for Binance, climbing right here all the way into July. Then if you look further down right here, now we'll go into exchange reserves on Coinbase Pro versus exchange reserves on Binance over the time. So again, this is the reserve to price. So you can kind of see the fall off right here, exchange reserve, and then of course the price there overall. So again, Binance holding strong, Coinbase starting to dip. These are the kind of things that concern me in the scenario we're in. If we were in a bull market, those kind of things don't necessarily come in as much because you see the liquidity that's constantly in flow because you've got a lot of new customers coming into the cycle. You've got a lot of that happening. And when you have that occurring, then you have a situation where an exchange continue to be a constant growing force in cryptocurrency. So I wanted to jump to this last one right here. And this is price, exchange reserves against all exchanges. Again, you can kind of see, yeah, sure, some have been, but the exchange versus price, again, on Bitcoin versus what we've seen here, which tells me we've got more and more people going into self-custody, as we've talked about on the show many times. I want to jump to a quick video here. This is of Kevin OLeary that on an interview here with Meet Kevin that really jumps to the point of what we're talking about. I want you to listen to what he had to say.
I would say this, I don't believe we've seen the bottom yet, and I have a different view of it. I go back again to other asset classes that I've invested in for decades. In every case, traditional bonds, traditional equities, real estate, alternative asset classes, bottoms are reached with an event, a panic event as I call it. And you can find it in every asset class. Back in the hedge fund days when they started gating, these large multi-billion-dollar hedge funds that gated, shut down their liquidity, caused panic, and you saw bottoms in equities as they were being liquidated. There's long-term was one of the classics in the last couple of decades. And it was a fund that was over-levered and blew up. We haven't seen that yet in crypto land. There's no big guy has gone to zero yet, and I think that's still to come. Hard to say who it is because it's going to be because of leverage and some kind of relationship in a counterparty holding that they have not disclosed. And I'm just speculating right now, but that would be very healthy for the market to have that happen. Voyager's too small, it doesn't matter. The rest of these guys were kind of irrelevant in terms of total market cap. Bitcoin and the crypto market itself has almost been cut in half in total market cap. And so you would think we're on our way to the bottom, but I like a big panic event. That's always been a great way to bottom. It's towel throwing, it's capitulation, it's massive volume, it's total panic in the streets, and always a great buying opportunity. I have no idea who's next. Could be tomorrow morning, could be a month from now, but it's coming to a theater near you. And it will definitely be a very good thing for this industry. It'll be a great thing because it'll take out all of the bad, broken business models, the heavy leverage, the speculation that was too risky, and push everybody. And this kind of circles back to the conversation you were having with Ben at Wonderful.
So I want to get into what he was talking about there in the sense of, and Kevin has said this many times, Kevin OLeary said this many times, is that these kinds of black swan events have shown up in previous cycles so many times. In many cases, we've seen it in the 2008 financial crisis. We've saw it in 2012. We've seen it in obviously the scenario around even things like what has happened with Celsius and Voyager. But what his note is that those weren't big enough. Luna wasn't big enough, even though it was a 60, almost $70 billion hit to the industry. Not big enough. What could that mean in the essence of major capitulation and a major buy-sell opportunity? It's going to have to end up, most likely, if he is right, it will be an exchange. Now, there's only a handful of them out there that could be in this case. And I think, and we'll get to some of your questions. So, you guys, I see the questions coming through. So yes, Luna's very big. Yes, had a lot of, I think, more of a trickle-down effect on the Three Arrows Capital situation, and which obviously had the ringing effects on both Celsius and also what's happened here with Voyager. But the point that OLeary is getting at is that we are potentially looking at a real cataclysmic scenario. And it doesn't necessarily, you can't necessarily throw this out, because if we didn't have the number of economic pressures that we have currently in the marketplace, meaning that we're going to get a 100 basis points print next week at the FOMC, you guys have heard me talk about that. We'll probably see another 75 come back in September. We're going to continue to see a high print on CPI throughout the fall. I anticipate we are going to still potentially see a very hard number. Remember that Paul Volcker ended up pushing the panic button all the way up to 20% on interest rates during the correction to get us back into foray. Now, when you push those kinds of buttons hard enough, you're going to get reaction from the market, and the market will start to do things that cause these kinds of scenarios. And in many cases, it's just people trying to protect themselves. I will say this, that no matter what you're doing, and you've heard me say this many times, guys, you need to diversify. Do not hold all of your funds in one place. If you're holding all on FTX, move it off. Let's split it up. If you are not into self-custody yet, that's okay. But you need to be diversifying into other platforms, whether you're looking at Coinbase, FTX, Gemini. Those I like. I use them all. I don't hold anything currently on Coinbase. I fold in and out of FTX. I also use Pionex.us, which is another platform that's a derivative off of Binance. So if you're not completely into Binance, you have limited tokens, but you want to have a good liquidity, in and out of Pionex does require KYC. And also, all the standards that they need to meet their money license here in the United States. So those are the kind of things that you do have to be aware of. Now, if you look at liquidity that's happening within Coinbase, you can look at two places. One, of course, is right here, Coinbase to merge USD and USDC order books for deeper liquidity. I don't understand why you would have to do that if you're in a really healthy liquidity position already. So this is questioning, and you can kind of see the point right here. July 13th, the Coinbase Exchange will be unifying the USD and USDC order books. As part of a unification process, the order books will be merged under USD order books to create a better, more seamless trading experience with deeper liquidity for USD and C. All right, so I've used Coinbase for a very long time. It was the first exchange I ever used when I got into crypto. And I will say that when I see these kind of scenarios, it does make me pause just a second because it's looking at, some potentials here. Now, I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen to Coinbase, guys. I just want you to be aware. This could put any crypto exchange on the top of this, this show. And you should be treating them all in the same fashion, in the sense of just caution in any kind of scenario. Listen, you should be doing this in your bank accounts right now. This is something that a lot of people forget. Even though that there's FDIC insurance up to $250K in your bank accounts, it still is access to that liquidity. I mean, if you had a bank go out on you, and I'll show you a list of banks that have done that before, failed banks, you still need to be able to have access to cash. So it's not about just getting your FDIC insurance. You need to be able to have that cash in multiple. So if, let's say you have $10,000, okay, let's put 5 in one and 5 in the other. That's good, healthy finance management. If you're on $100,000, let's put 30 in each and pull up 3 different accounts. Make sure they're different banks. Those are just good financial practices that you should be looking at. The other thing that they did here was Coinbase phasing out Coinbase Pro for the advanced mode in the main app. Now, I like this because I always kind of thought that Coinbase Pro was, a little silly because, Gemini, you can immediately go to Advanced Trader. It's right there. There's not a lot of, it still is unique and different, but it's not, it's not clunky in the sense that you have to log in under separate. You got two different wallet kind of things. So I thought this was a good move, but it does also indicate that they're centralizing liquidity. Now, could be just good, smart management by Brian Armstrong, and hopefully that is the case. Now, the other thing that I always look at, and this has happened before with others, I won't name names, but we have seen other companies who have gone down overall that have cut their affiliate programs. Now, when I look at what the charts I just showed you in terms of Google search, transaction volume, exchange value, all those kind of things that are trending down, what is the one thing you need more so than anything other than Bitcoin to go up? You need more customers. The only way that you're going to get more customers is to spend more in marketing. And whether you use affiliate marketing or you just use marketing in general, the key is you cannot slow down on any of that. That's a balance sheet hit. And to me, this helps the balance sheet more so than anything. But I look at it and, the best marketing companies out there always will spend into hard times, not reduce expenditures into hard times. So that's always a question mark. You saw here BitBoy talking about Coinbase shutting down their affiliate program, getting rid of Coinbase Pro. Recent history would suggest it'd be a trouble ahead for CB, so tread lightly. If Coinbase were to go insolvent, this would break crypto and the crypto space like we've never seen before. Point he's making right there is exactly what Kevin OLeary just said, is that the likelihood of this could be so much. Now, you have to worry about this because if this were to happen, we're all speculating right now that these kinds of scenarios, this could happen to an FTX. Could this happen to a Binance based on what we're seeing with Binance numbers? Probably not so much. Could happen to Binance US. Could happen to a Kraken or a KuCoin. Any of these, we are in hard times, guys. We've seen this happen in so many other places. So when that is the factor, you've got to be able to be in a position to move quickly. And that is a concern. Now, I was looking at their balance sheet, and this is the Q1 balance sheet. So you got current assets holding at $6 billion, down from $7 billion. So they've got a little bit of a burn issue. Customer custodial funds at $10 billion, still holding in there. And then you can kind of see here, crypto assets held right here, total current assets at $16 billion versus $18 billion last year at the same quarter. $20 billion in total assets versus $21 billion last year. Current liabilities at 10.9 versus 11.4. And then total liabilities at 14 versus really 14 about last year. And then overall additional paid-in capital, et cetera. So your total liabilities and convertible still holding at about a billion underneath that. So decent, but the problem is, again, net loss income attributed to common stockholders. This, of course, has been stock issues coming down, and again, back to the volume scenario that we've seen continuously dropping in terms of traders within Coinbase. To me, this is a time in which Coinbase should be ramping up communication, ramping up their marketing, ramping up programs and ease of use, and the ability to really start developing a lot more partnerships to get into other things. Whether that, and I know, it wasn't a great rollout with what they did on their NFT platform, but those are the kind of things that I think that is important. Now, if you look at what Dan Held said right here, no, Coinbase doesn't have a liquidity crisis because they shut down their affiliate program. Kind of silly. And, this is not just some, general dude. This is the Kraken CEO. So just be aware, not everybody is looking in that way. So I just want you guys to understand that those kind of scenarios do happen from time to time. As the guy that literally set up the affiliate program in 2019, shutting it down has nothing to do with liquidity. I don't think it has anything to do with liquidity. What it has to do with, in my opinion, is balance sheet health. And balance sheet health is important to stock price, the investors, and eventually it has a lot to do with the amount of new customers that are onboarding. And remember, recurring revenue is the number one theme that you need on a lot of these kinds of tech-style startups. Now, you look at what John Deaton said. I expect to see a lot of FUD about the potential of a Coinbase bankruptcy. I don't necessarily see it coming, but things would have to still happen. But he says, I even hesitate to write this because Coinbase has plenty of cash, plenty of reserves. I don't know if I would call that plenty under the conditions that we're in right now at 6 billion. I would expect industry leaders to never allow Coinbase to have a bankruptcy. And again, I don't know. This is a very interesting statement because he goes, the reason is obvious. Coinbase bankruptcy would set the crypto industry back for more than 5 years. I don't know that it would set it back that far. I feel like the market is, even a Coinbase could go down or have issues, start to retract, maybe do some other control mechanisms in terms of how they onboard people, maybe limiting the type of customers they use, those kind of things. But a bankruptcy has to be avoided at all costs, according to John. If depositors lost all or part of their money on crypto, we simply cannot overestimate the fallout. Perception becomes reality. And this is where I would concern myself, because this could be a scenario of contagion. And contagion is something that you cannot stop. It has happened before in the banking industry where one bank falls, another bank falls, and we start to see that contagion effect. And then everybody is cautious about what bank they're putting their money in. So if that can happen in traditional finance markets, don't believe that it could not happen here in what we're seeing within crypto. Coinbase, of course, secures crypto asset service provider. This was in Italy. This at least was good news to me because it does open up the opportunity of onboarding new customers in international markets. And to me, that's a huge advantage, because that is something that very few exchanges get a chance to do. And this is another good point of how it could roll into it. This is something that John said that I would agree with. So as a CEO of a publicly traded company, he, Brian Armstrong, must be careful. But he believes that Brian should and needs to really quell the FUD. And I think this gets back to the point that you and I are talking about right now. There are ways around this. I truly believe this. Now, I granted there's got to be a million things coming in on Coinbase on a day in, day out basis in terms of marketing issues, challenges on all sorts of fund management, to an extension of how crypto assets are managed, what new crypto assets are coming onto the market, all those kind of things. But I think he has an opportunity here, meaning Brian Armstrong, that he could come out and really start to set up. And Jeremy Allaire did it with Circle. Then he started releasing the dollar for dollar balance sheet that showed the fund mechanism of what's happening over at Circle, USDC, and rested everybody back on their seat. And everybody kind of said, okay, now we understand. It is a true dollar for dollar value there. And I think the key here would be a strategy. There would be a few things that I would point out, is that if they had a strategy for onboarding new customers, maybe this new, diversion away from Coinbase Pro into centralized usage, maybe that can help in terms of onboarding and getting customers in. The other thing too is I think they need to start partnering up with things like Ledger. Look at what FTX has done. That would be another great way to be able to give the customers the best of both worlds, self-custody and the ability to trade on and increase transactions. Because remember, transactions are going to flow to where people feel the safest. So all of that definitely kind of pointing to the whole issue right here. And I want to get into a list of just some of the failed banks. There are so many of these. So do not think this cannot happen in crypto. Look at that. So we're talking about 951 failed banks between 2004 and 2007. That was the huge period of time that we saw that. 625. Now here you got if you look at in the 40s, we saw this was during the dark times on the stock market, 608 failed banks. Then you look at the 96 to 97 era, 450. I mean, this is a common thing that happens all the time in terms of bank failures. The good thing is we haven't had any in the last couple of years, but in 2020 we had 4, in 2019 we had another 4, and in 2017 we had 8 major bank failures. So again, just huge numbers here, and I want to show you some of the ones just in terms of dollar value that these bank failures occurred. Let's go to the top 10. We'll go to the top 10 and then you can kind of see. So there's HomeFed, 12 billion. This was in 92. Here's 2008. This was Downey Savings and Loan. This is one of the big ones, 12.7 billion. Deposits were 9.6 billion. So again, $3 billion hole. Then you had Bank United, 13 billion. 2009, here's a 1989. This was the Gibraltar thing, 13 billion. This was a huge one because it versus 7 billion in assets. Bank of New England, 13 billion. So again, this is the size of the kind of markets that we're faced with right now in the crypto markets. There's just a bunch of these. These are all Coinbase level. I mean, you're talking about a $6 billion asset list for what Coinbase has today. So it's, in essence, not even a comparison to a failed bank who's holding, $15 billion in assets. So a lot of that plays into where all of this could be facing us into a very interesting time. Last up, I want to take a look quickly at their stock, which we've seen kind of down on the floor. Maybe we'll see a little bit of movement here. Let's look at the 5-day. So you've seen this little bit of bump here recently, 53 up to its high right there of 62. So again, if you were maybe buying at the bottom on Coinbase, maybe this is a good time for you to take a look at a position. Exit. I love it. All right, let's get over to some questions. I know we got a poll that comes up. Let's take a look at the poll real quick and get going. All right, so is Coinbase too big to fail? Yes, it's safe. No, anything can fall. Unsure, not worth the risk. So I think you guys are in the right place. It is safe. I believe it's safe, but I also look in the essence of diversity, and making sure diversification is part of your portfolio. Those are just smart moves. Don't get caught in one place. That's all I'm saying. Always be looking at that. And let's take a look at this one. Roseno, Coinbase will never go bankrupt. I'm not seeing that as a possibility. Never say never in the financial market. Cryptoversity, Binance and Kraken didn't go stupid with dumbass advertising to noobs. I don't know. I would say that is true. Kraken and Binance, even though Binance has, I believe they have been able, because of the way they do their marketing, it's not the typical marketing strategy that everybody else uses. They utilize all of the ecosystem to market for them. So Binance Labs and all of the ecosystem, they're the ones out there marketing for Binance. So Binance gets carried in on, a great pull. Coinbase fall can cause other exchanges to shake as well, like Binance and FTX. So that gets back to my point on a contagion scenario. If you had something like a Coinbase that went down, yes, the contagion effect would be massive. We would see big impacts on Binance and on FTX. But at the end of the day, one of those or both and a handful of others, I think, would end up winning at the end. And that is, sure, they'd be paying it in the beginning, whoever the healthy are. And at that point, I think it would be going. No, CZ is not sponsoring this segment. We have no affiliation with Binance whatsoever. We have no affiliation with Kraken because we showed them on there as well. Coinbase NFT marketplace did not go well. I would agree with there. Goldman Sachs has the hots for Coinbase. That's interesting you say that, Brendan, because in the pit we were talking about this today. Who would be a good target acquisition for Coinbase? And I often look to the banks because the banks are and have been wanting to go in this direction for a very long time. If they get some regulatory guidance or clearance, could we see something like a JP Morgan go in and grab up a distressed Coinbase? Could be. And if you did it at the right time, Coinbase would never be in trouble, because I think those kind of scenarios, are kind of scenarios, even though it's still very expensive. Could Coinbase go under, have an impact on the USD stablecoin? I think anything could have an impact like that on USD stable. But again, it will depend on when and if that would ever happen. Timing will have everything to do with that. Angry Bull, I think Coinbase is just trying to streamline services. I would agree to a certain point. The concern I have is all the charts I showed you in terms of volume fall off, people searching for it, user growth, all those kind of things are going and trending down, while we have other exchanges that are trending up. So you have to admit that's not a good thing. Is Coinbase wallet in danger also? So it is decentralized. Again, I will tell you that I moved everything out of my Coinbase wallet, mainly because I like using hard wallets and cold storage. So it's just one. And some people, locked your ETH in there. Yep, the last time that has happened, it didn't turn out well for a lot of people. And I mean people who are leveraged against staked ETH. So And you guys understand what I'm talking about there. In order to be traded as a public security, Coinbase has to be under collateralized and solvent. Really not the same as these other Ponzi-nomic loops. Would except for, remember that even though they are scrutinized, it does not fix the problem of onboarding new customers and creating volume. You just can't create that out of thin air. Stock price can only support you so long. Kathy Wood still bullish on Coinbase. I don't know. She exited her position in a big way. Now it has reduced some, but she still does hold. I have ETH staked. Yep, in Coinbase, can't move it. Should I be worried? I mean, there's nothing you can do if you're in staked ETH. It just is what it is. Come September, you might, obviously, you'll be in a different position. I don't think Coinbase will go insolvent. That's a good one. Hey, Paul, help. So I need Binance or Binance US. I don't know what app to pick. Look, not financial advice, guys. We do these market movers. The whole idea is to give you guys some direction to go out there and kind of do your own research and fit what works with you. If you're in the United States, I mean, you could. There's all kinds of platforms out there to diversify. As I said earlier in the show, you could go Gemini. You could go with Pionex US. You could go with FTX, and diversify your portfolio a little bit. Remember, not all tokens are carried on all those applications, so be aware. If a platform or an exchange goes down, what happens to your crypto? Same thing that's happened to people's crypto in Voyager. It'll get locked up and it'll take time to clear it because it would depend on if things were in a bankruptcy kind of scenario. Crypto Stevo, during the next bull run, newbies will flock. Yeah, now that's true. I would agree with that, Steve-O. That is the one thing that, as I said earlier, is if they make it easier for onboarding, then yes, you can get the newbies to flock in. But do you think we're going to see a lot of newbies in the next 6 months? Would be my question. Even really in the next maybe 8 to 10 months, are we going to see enough newbies to really make a difference? Now, maybe Coinbase knows something we don't, that maybe got a run coming, or maybe there's some potential out from this macro economic environment. If we start to get relief out of that, things start to change up pretty quickly. And I still think that we're in a position, and this is something I'm going to do a video on, is that I think this inflationary environment, I think it's here to stay. And if that is the case, we're going to see an adjustment of how not only hedge funds and investment capital that has been waiting on the sideline with trillions of dollars are going to have to redeploy in the market, and they may even redeploy in the market with a 10 CPI or greater if we start to see consistency around this. Meaning, everybody has been wanting to get, our interest and our consumer price index around 2% inflation. It's very possible we could see a 4 to 10% inflation as a long-term effect on the economy. And Chamath Palihapitiya was talking about this on the All In podcast. He went right down into that whole scenario. So are there other cheaper alternatives? Listen, I think a lot of these exchanges are going to start to up their fees a little bit, so just be aware of that. I've been through many bear markets. Why is this one so different? Okay, this is why they're so different, because what we're looking at right now is contagion effect, and we're at the precipice of a potential breakout for a major asset class. In the 2017 run and prior, Bitcoin was not in the position it is now, nor as crypto in general, nor exchanges. Are they in the position right now? Right now, you have exchanges like Robinhood, which has been a kind of a redefiner of how trading works, that is looking more and more into crypto exchanges. When you have traditional finance, banks, JP Morgan, more and more banks looking at this model, you have to look at this as a completely different animal than what we had in 2017. And that's the point. Are you waiting for a black swan before loading up? Yes, I am. I'm looking for other entry points under 20K. Thanks for the super chat, guys. Appreciate it. Fiat onto BitGet. We probably should do a piece on that, because BitGet, I've had more people ask me about that in my DMs. What type of cold wallet should I store my crypto on Coinbase? I mean, there's many of them out there. Trezor's a good one. Also Ledger, they do a great job. If you're going to get that one, do with the Nano X. Spend a little extra money and grab that one. We always leave a link. We used to have a discount code, but it's not, they've been kind of cutting those discounts down, but you can still get to those just using our link below. All right, listen, if you guys want to reach me, it's out on Twitter. It's very simple. Just follow me at Paul Barron. Also, if you want to jump into the Diamond Circle, it's free. As I said, just click the link below. And again, we'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.